Okay, now in my last videos I know I missed out on the actual convex sharpening of a knife, and here's one I've been meaning to convex for a while. It's a sword friction folder. It's held shut by this little tang on the back of the blade, so there's no lock, it's just the action of your hand gripping. You're holding part of the blade in the handle so it can't fold on your fingers. Nice little knife, but could do with a little work. So this is how I would convex, and did convex, the F1. You get your mouse mat, just plain rubber mouse mat, put it on the edge of your table, abrasive sheet on top lined up with the edge again. Place the knife on the abrasive sheet, check your angle. Because the foam mat is flexible, it'll conform, so you can go slightly lower, and don't use any pressure, just use pretty much the weight of the knife, maybe the weight of your hand, just to do your strokes. Do 10 each side, do one forward, one back, whichever you prefer. Just keep it even so the edge stays centered. And work away at the lowest grit that you can get away with. Like if the edge is badly deformed, you're going to use a coarser grit, but you're putting scratches in your edge that you're going to have to take out later on. So go with the least amount of grit needed to do the job, and pretty much practice will tell you what that is. This is an 800 grit, wet and dry from Halford's, and we're just going to polish this like this. If we were using a hard substrate, like a granite surface plate or something like that, then the angle would matter a lot more. You would have to hold a fixed angle and try and stay at that angle through each stroke. Always drawing the edge back away from the abrasive. Stop, turn over, and go again. To go around the belly, around the curve of the blade, you lift the handle. As you draw back, lift the handle so that the edge stays in contact all the way to the point. Same thing going forward. Lift your handle and forward. And doing that, you work through 800 grit, 1200 grit, 1500 grit, go to your micro mesh, and then you go to your stropping. Now I've several strops I've made myself. Here's a leather belt glued onto a block of wood. I also have a rubber block on this side which I can use as a hoodoo hone, as it's known. It has very little give, it's pretty hard rubber, but you can lay a sheet of abrasive on this, glue it on with Pritt stick or one of those spray adhesives like art students use, and again work your edge. It's a harder edge, so it'll work better for flat grinds rather than convex grinds. After that, to make your own, you get a block of the likes of Durabella lat, maybe 1x1. Glue a piece of leather belt onto this, or you can buy the likes of that. It's veg tanned leather rather than chrome tanned leather, so it'll hold the abrasive. That's all it is a wick to hold your abrasive compound in place, and then you strop on that. These strops backed by timber are very hard, very flat, so you can use a little more force when you're stropping on the likes of that. This is Dovo red compound for straight razors and Dovo black compound for straight razors, just fine and ultra fine, and that's it. You polish like that. You can go tip to heel, work that way. I prefer to go heel to tip, it's just the way I learnt. My favourite strops though are leather on timber and with the blue Smurf Proof polishing compound. When your strop starts to get loaded up, like this one's getting fairly black, you can see that's where steel has deposited onto the strop. What you can do is scrape that off, not with your knife that you're sharpening. Use a paint scraper, a Stanley knife blade, something like that. Scrape off the old compound, the old black caked stuff, all the old steel. You just want to raise the nap of the leather all along so that it's kind of furry and it's going to grip your compound when you reapply it. Then you get, this is one of my favourite strops. This is like the furry side up, scrape it clean, and then lightly crayon the polishing compound onto the leather all along. You only just barely want to see a colour, because like the compound, the size of the compound of these is something like 3 micron down to 1 micron. So you don't need a half an inch of compound on your leather. You just want the bare touch of it so that you can press down and polish away. At your angle, if you're sharpening a convex on a leather like this that doesn't have a whole lot of give, you can rock the blade from very, very shallow, raising up until you meet the edge, and you'll polish all of the bevel from back here all the way out to the edge. You'll actually feel the difference when you come to the edge. If you want to judge where your edge is, push forwards very lightly and start lifting the spine of the knife as you push forward until it just starts to bite. That's where your very edge is, and then strop back at that angle. And the same on the other side. Takes a little practice, but you'll find you'll settle into a rhythm. Apparently moving forwards and away like this means that you can hold the angle better because of the way the human shoulder articulates. So I sit with my right arm in front of the strop rather than having the strop central to me. If I'm left-handed, I'd sit with the strop to my left-hand side. And strop again away and back. Using very, very light pressure. And as you get to the finish, use decreasing amounts of pressure, just barely the weight of the knife. You should just be skimming across the leather just to put that final polish. You can stay going until you have a mirror polish on the edge. It's more of a cosmetic thing. Once you have the edge polished and refined down to like a 3 micron, 1 micron, half micron grit size, the mirror polish, you may have scratches left over in the edge from previous grits. You've probably polished the valleys of those scratches anyway. So you have like very, very tiny micro serrations that are all polished up. Going to the extent where you polish out every scratch until the whole blade is mirrored, it's a cosmetic thing, and some sharpening people like to do it. I've done it a couple of times myself. You don't need to do that. Once you strop, you have a good edge, and then to maintain your knife, after every couple of uses, give it a few strops. Give it 5 or 10 strops before you put it away. On a carbon steel knife like this, I like to use some mineral oil on the blade to prevent corrosion. You can use camellia oil like the Japanese swords use. You can use WD-40 if you're not going to be eating with the blade. You could use pretty much any. Olive oil tends to go rancid and get kind of sticky, so I would stay away from vegetable oils as such, and just treat your blade, wipe it dry, keep it clean, and give it a strop, and that will extend the time in between having to go back to the likes of an abrasive sheet. You should not have to go back to the 800 grit. Once you've your bevel set and your edge polished, you shouldn't have to resharpen until you've really worn the edge down. Stropping should refresh the edge, bring it back, and that should, maybe every 6 months, you might have to go back to an abrasive and actually reset your angles. Okay, I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you again soon.